Okay, now we're actually recording. Good, good. Thank you again, Penny, for helping again with my project.
Oh, glad to help, Nathan, any way I can.
Like they say, the third time's the charm, I think. So,
Hey, there's always technical difficulties. Even going to the moon, there's technical difficulties.
oh, exactly. You got to have a
So,
backup to the backup to the backup. so, so back to that original question. Did you know that NASA is planning to send people to the moon again in 2024?
no, I had not heard that they had set a date until you told me. I mean, I knew they had kind of had plans to do that, but I hadn't heard anything about dates. And I'm thinking when you said 2024, from somebody that was born in the 1900s,
I
that
know.
sounds like such a far off date, but it's like, my God, that's only 4 years.
I know. Yeah, I know. It depends
So that's,
on. I mean, I still have trouble believing it's 2020 right now. It's just like,
I know. uh, yeah, pretty soon there'll be that song that was in the year 2525. Well, that's going to be like next week.
and it's amazing how much has changed. Like just over the past, since I left Orangeville 25 years ago. I mean, like doing this video chat would have been unthought of. We kind of talked about it, but in like some far off future, not as a
And
everyday.
that was the Jetsons.
The Jetsons, yeah, exactly. And now we have phones.
I'm still waiting for Rosie.
Oh yes, indeed. Yeah, we would keep her busy. The robot.
Yes, I need my Rosie. Come on, Nathan, why haven't you created her?
My wife asks me that all the time too, and I tell her that that's why I can't do the dishes is because I got to go work on Rosie, but that doesn't work.
Oh,
um,
but no, growing up, I always wanted to go to space one day. And then, it just seemed like, well, it's not going to happen in my lifetime.
well, did you hear about Richard Branson's company, Virgin Galactic? They have
Oh, yeah.
they actually went public last year, and they're supposed to be doing flights for paying customers this year, just to the edge of space. Not actually in orbit or
Yeah,
anything.
but he's not my price range yet.
No, no, he's not. He's not on mine either. I don't think he's unless you're. Yeah, I think you would have to be like a billionaire to really afford that kind of change. Uh, you know,
Maybe I can get a job as an attendant.
or as a photographer reporter type person, that would be the way
There
to
you
have.
go. That's it. Yes. Hey, Richard Branson, come on now. I could be good social media.
Exactly.
There you go. Yeah, that might be the only way I got stand a chance for a while. But
But the same thing was true with cars and airline travel and computers, that they started out as really expensive, specialized goods that only certain people and certain organizations could afford. And then over time, the price came down so that it became like an everyday item.
oh, honey, even the microwave, it started out at $700.
Really? Yeah, now I think you get one for
Yeah.
like 25 from Walmart, right?
Pretty close to that, yeah. But the first one we bought was in the 70s and it was $700. And we didn't even get one right off the bat.
Wow.
For the VCR, which no longer even exists, it was like $1,000 for the first one.
And they had like huge tapes, right?
Yeah. And now they're obsolete.
Wow. I did.
So
But so do you remember actually what it was like when the first time we landed on the moon was?
I was young, but yeah, I mean, that was exciting times because that was in '69. So I was in the seventh grade, I think, sixth or seventh grade. So
Wow.
yeah, that was fun.
But what was it? I mean, did y'all go home and watch it on TV, or did you read about it in a newspaper, or like?
I'm sure I saw it on TV, but I don't remember being like in class or something. And I would think we would have been in class, but I don't remember that for sure. So I guess I was still young enough that I'm getting too old to remember like where I was. But I know we saw it on TV more than once, because that's one of them things they do, like the instant replay. The news come in. But I remember Walter Cronkite, doing his stuff and all. So that was back in the day, though, when you only had 3 channels.
Only 3 channels, and everybody saw them, and everybody was talking about the same thing.
That's it. So it wasn't like today where you've got thousands of channels and you've got Facebook and all of that. No, you had 3 channels, and it went off at midnight. And so every channel was showing, the moonwalk and all of that. I mean, it was on all the channels. So you didn't have a chance not to see it back then.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel like, um, landing on the moon brought us together, and that if we land on the moon again, then it'd be like this big international event. But I don't think that's necessarily true because of that very change. We went from having like everybody reading the same newspapers and seeing the same channels and it being like first page news. I think we could very easily land on the moon and half the population not even know it, or even more.
That's a very good possibility these days.
I think this COVID-19 is the closest we get to like bringing everybody on the same page.
Yeah, this has really kind of shut everybody down and got them together too. It's a crazy world.
Yeah, it's a global shared experience, um, kind of. But so you say you're excited about us going back to the moon. The first time we went, we had 6 landings, each with 2 people. They were all white men, I think most of which had like military backgrounds and what have you. This time they plan to have a woman in that first landing, and to be landing the first woman.
All right.
I guess that's the answer to my question. I was going to ask if that made you more or less excited.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I hated it when Krista McCullough, the first teacher, wound up dying in was that one the Challenger?
It was the
'Cause I know that.
Challenger.
Yeah, and I remember watching that. Now that one I can tell you exactly where I was at when the Challenger exploded. I was sitting on the edge of the bed watching it go up, and then when it broke apart into the 2 pieces, I'm just sitting there with my mouth hanging open. But I really don't think they should have shut down having individual private citizens on there. I think they should have continued that. And, even though, everybody's heart went out because, oh my God, she was the first teacher. You can't feel sorry for her because if you have to die, she died on a really good day because she was living her life's dream. And if you got to go out like that, hey, what a way to go out doing what you were doing. She was probably on such a high, and it all exploded at once. So there was no pain. Couldn't have been, it was just boom and it's over. But she had to be on such a high that I would think that would be a hell of a way to go out. And so.
It sure beats dying in a traffic accident on the way to the office. Or
COVID-19.
Or COVID-19, right?
I
Huh.
mean, come on. Can you imagine what she was feeling when the boosters, when all the rockets kicked off and she's going up? She had to be on such a high
I
that,
know.
I've had one of those that I thought was, today would be a good day to die because everything was just so good, and there was nothing wrong with the world. And I'm like, today would be a good day. If I had to go out today, it'd be okay.
Is there a secret to making every day like that?
I don't know. I don't know. I just try and stay, upbeat and positive. And, if today's the day, well, it's okay. Just do whatever you can that day to, keep shining.
Um,
But, ah,
yeah, it's difficult. Um, well, some people are like, we have so many problems here on Earth. Why are we going into space? And I was wondering what your thought about that is.
well, there's so much out there. We're just like a little bitty speck in the cosmos.
Hmm.
And it's like, we can't be the only ones out there. There's no way. There's just too much out there. In fact, I still remember uh, my sixth grade teacher. I don't know if you had Mr. Honish. Was he still around when you went to school?
Mr. Hanish, that brings us, I think he was an assistant principal.
I don't remember if he ever got that, but he taught sixth grade when I was in school.
What did he
And
teach? Was it
that was the
science?
first year that we taught.
Did he
And
teach?
he did science.
Yeah, I
Yeah, he
think I
did
do remember him.
science. And,
Yeah.
yeah. But he said something about, it'd be awfully presumptuous of us to think that we're the only ones. I mean, that'd be crazy to think that we're it.
It,
And
it,
so I've always been curious to see what's out there.
but, and also, in terms of the resources in the solar system, the vast majority of the resources aren't on Earth. Um, have you heard of Jeff Bezos?
Yes.
Did you know that in addition to founding Amazon, he also has a space company?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he has. It's
So
called
which one is it?
Blue Origin. Blue Origin.
No, I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, and they have an interesting funding model. He sells $1 billion of Amazon stock a year and uses that to fund his space company. So it's kind of.
Oh, wow. No, I didn't know that.
But he has a
Cool.
vision of eventually trying to enable it so that like all heavy manufacturing and mining and energy production are actually moved off of Earth, and Earth is like rezoned as like a garden spot, just for humanity. Because he's like, out of all the places in the solar system, the Earth is the best place, the most special place. And if we can use the rest of the solar system to meet our needs and preserve the Earth, that's kind of like one of the goals that he has. I thought that was kind of interesting. I was wondering what you thought.
Hmm. I'd have to think on that one a minute because, in the way, though, it's also kind of encroaching on somebody else's territory, But then, hey, we tend to do that. But
Well, that's
uh,
an interesting point. So you say encroaching on somebody else's territory. Well, I mean, can you maybe talk a little bit more about that?
well, like I said, I'd have to think about it because that's the first time I've heard that. So it might. But then again, hey, we came over here to America. We took it over. You know, yeah. So it'd almost be kind of like that. But, exploring is what we do. But at the same time, I'd have to think on that.
Well, that's kind of in line with one other person I interviewed. Their point was, we messed up the Earth. Why should we mess up the moon too?
Oh, well, hey, the moon is ours. I wasn't thinking about it as being encroaching, but it's like when you're going out much further than that. Um, yeah, we'll see. But hey, if you can come up with like trade agreements,
But I mean, that's an interesting thing.
mutual.
So I mean, on Mars, I think we're pretty much under the impression there's no like intelligent life, if there's any life there, and if there is any life there, is probably microbial life. And
Right.
there's some thoughts on we need to be careful what we do on Mars because maybe we'll bring microbial life with us, of course, and we won't be able to tell the difference, and we'll have this endless debate about did life develop there by itself? Was it different? Things like that. But um, I mean, assuming there's like no, if it's only like microbial life, I guess who would you have the trade agreement with? Or are you talking about
Yeah.
um, are you talking about maybe countries who are more advanced today, kind of displacing the interest of other countries and people that would develop in the future, and they kind of, nothing's left for them. I mean, so that's a whole different aspect, kind of looking back,
Yeah.
not at what's on Mars, but if like Earth and China divvy up Mars like Spain and Portugal did with the New World, what's left for like India or South Africa or Brazil or whoever could be kind of one way to look at it, maybe.
Could be.
So, when you were a child, uh, did you have any dreams of going into space?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. The only thing is now I'm getting to an age, I'm beginning to wonder, well, I may never get a chance to do that, but definitely that was a dream when I was a kid. I would have loved to have gone to the moon.
Now, do you think
And,
kids of this generation of today have those same dreams?
I'm sure there are those that do. Uh, and lucky for them, there's things like Space Camp.
Yeah,
That didn't exist when I was a kid. There was no such thing as Space Camp. That would have been so cool.
that would have been. And they
Space Camp for seniors.
well, and they also have that hyperbolic flight. It's like this airplane. It has all the seats taken out with pads on it, and it kind of
The Vomit Comet?
the vomit comet. I've actually ridden on it.
You have?
Yeah, me and my two sons, we went on a trip on it, and we got to experience weightlessness. I'll send you the
Oh my
video.
goodness, how was it?
It was really amazing. I thought I would be like seasick or feel like I was falling, but you just feel light. You have no concept of down. You just float around. It was really neat. I'll send you a video of our trip, and
Awesome.
you could get some laughs out of it.
And I'm sure that wasn't a cheap trip either.
It was. It was not. It was not. Um, it was not cheap.
And so, how did you get the chance to do that? Because I would also think that not everybody even has the opportunity to do that.
Well, there's a commercial company called Zero G that actually sells tickets, and you just buy them like regular airline tickets. I bought it on like a Black Monday sale, so they were like 25% off.
Okay.
So I think, for us it was like $4,000 each. So, but I know,
Whoa.
I know, it was meant to be like the. And I bought three of them. Uh,
Oh.
I know.
Hey, but you know what? If you can do it, I can't blame you for doing that because that had to be a once in a lifetime thing for a lot of people.
It was. I really wanted my wife to come with us, and her leg was in a brace at the time, so she didn't feel comfortable going. But even without that, she's like, somebody has to live. She was really concerned about the.
I'd be that way about skydiving. I'm not in the skydiving. That would kind of jumping out of a good plane. No, but see,
Oh,
that'd be floating in a plane. So I'd be okay with that.
yeah, indeed. I mean, you have no sense what the plane is doing. I mean, the plane is literally flying like this, and but inside the plane, like there's only a couple windows, so you can't really look out the windows, and all you see is the padded area, and you're floating, so you really have no idea what the plane is doing. It feels fairly comfortable. The only difficult part is whenever it starts to slow down and pull back up, then you feel heavier than you normally do, and you're laying on the ground, and the weightlessness only lasts for 30 seconds at a time,
I
and
knew it's not long.
yeah, not long. And they only did like 15 parabolas. So you get a total of maybe 7 minutes of weightlessness. So
Oh, okay.
it's really short. You actually spend more time trying to get to the place where you can fly because they have to have like I think it's like 20 miles wide and like 50 miles long of completely free airspace. So they have to fly someplace where they don't have other planes to worry about. So
Not in the regular air traffic lanes.
not in the regular air traffic lanes. Yeah, usually I think ours was over the Gulf of Mexico. They had a piece of
Oh, okay.
space that they used for that. So that was kind of neat.
Well, I'm glad you got to do it more than once because that would really be a bummer if you got 30 seconds for that money.
I know that would have been awful. That I don't think we would have done it for 30 seconds, but who knows? Yeah.
Wow. But that's cool that you actually got to experience that because most people won't ever get to do that.
Yeah.
Until going to the moon becomes a day trip.
Well, and there's a company, SpaceX, which is Elon Musk's company,
Yeah.
and they're
Yes.
working on this completely reusable spacecraft that can get you from one point in the world to another point in the world in 30 minutes. And they think they can sell tickets equivalent to like the first class airline ticket level. And at the top of that, you'll have about 6 to 7 minutes of weightlessness just as part of your normal international travel. So there might,
Would be cool.
yeah, it could be cool. And where they're building the prototype for this? In
Uh-uh.
it's near Brownsville. They have a little factory down there that they're building
Oh,
these things, and it's just amazing to see kind of like the work that's going on there, and so close to us too. I mean, it's like a 7-8 hour drive for us to go to Brownsville and actually see. And
oh, wow.
he thinks he's going to have this working in like the next 8 to 9 years. So
Oh, cool.
yeah,
So have you been down there?
I went down there last summer, um, and I got to see some of the stuff that they did. They don't actually allow visitors on the facilities, but there's a state highway that runs kind of between the facilities. So we went down there and kind of parked on the side. A state trooper comes up, tells us to get back in the car and continue driving. But I got some pictures and stuff. But I mean, since I went down there, the facility's like grown by like 5 times, 10 times in size,
Wow.
and they're just cranking these things out, and they're planning to start testing them, just in a matter of weeks or months, and it's just really amazing. I think I think our I think this decade is going to be the decade that we thought would have happened in the 70s in terms of space
Cool.
travel. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
keep me apprised on that.
oh, I will, probably more than you want.
Uh, when they start selling tickets on Groupon.
Indeed. Yeah, we'll have to go into it together. Bye.
Yeah, really. But yeah, when they get it down regularly for the us little poor schlubs that that don't have a lot of funds, when it gets down to that and they have economy travel, I'm in.
Yeah, me too.
So, hey, but if microwaves can go from $700 down to, 25, surely space travel can get.
Yeah, and a lot of the problem is kind of like the lack of innovation in space travel. NASA and like the military, they do all this cost plus contracting, where these contractors, they're like, we'll pay whatever it costs for you to build it, and then add a little bit extra for your profit. So there's like no incentive to reduce the cost. And now they're trying to go more into like a fixed fee service and leaving the contractors to figure out, just provide the service. So now there's like that incentive. So instead of like NASA buying the rocket to send supplies to the International Space Station, they pay companies like SpaceX and Cygnus, a fixed amount to deliver so much supplies like you would with FedEx, which means that these companies are now incentivized to try to reduce the cost. And then, eventually that'll lead to cheaper and cheaper things. So I think, NASA played a part in keeping the cost high because of the way that they do business. And, the whole political, economical, business type of connections. But starting to see some improvements. I'm hopeful.
It took the private sector to get going, really.
Yeah, you have to have competition. People with ideas willing to invest their own money. And, a lot of those ideas are going to fail, but you learn from them, and other people have different ideas and they succeed. I mean, that's kind of like what we've seen with like computers and cars and everything else. I mean, if Ford was the only developer of cars, I doubt they would have innovated as much as we see today.
Wow, it's like even computers, when you think of it back in the day when they went to the moon, the computers filled like rooms,
Oh, indeed.
just rooms. And now we've got more computing power on our phone than what they used to go to the moon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we actually have more computing power on our phone than I think existed in the entire world combined whenever we went to the moon.
Yeah.
So,
So that's crazy. And even the newest phones are even around $1,000 at the high end. So when you think of that and how many millions of dollars they spent in computers for the big computers back then, I mean, it's nuts. So
yeah,
surely they can get it down to where we can go to the moon for $19.95.
exactly. It's all a matter of scale and innovation and lots of things like that. So, it'd be
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
exciting. Well, any last comments before I shut off the recording?
I'm just excited to see what happens in the future, and I'm ready to have them punch my ticket one day. Maybe it'll happen before maybe I won't be leaving this world in a pine box. Maybe I'll actually get to go to the greater beyond eventually.
That's
We'll
what
see.
Elon Musk says. He says he hopes to die on Mars, just not on impact. He wants to.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome.
Oh.